Ash walked alone across the cracked earth of old Sector 12, where buildings leaned like tired soldiers and the wind always carried a smell of rust and fire. He had no place to be, and no one waiting for him anywhere. That was fine. After the last human city fell during the unexpected war, friends had become harder to keep than bullets. The war hadn't started with a warning. It came one morning when the skies opened and the alien ships dropped like angry gods. The invaders weren't all from one species. Some looked like statues, others like walking fish, and a few just seemed like shapes made of smoke. But they had one thing in common. They didn't want peace. Ash had been a mechanic, not a soldier. But war didn't care what you used to be. He fought because he had to. And when the fighting stopped, and both sides retreated to their broken corners of the world, Ash had nothing left except an old backpack, a patched-up drone, and silence. He didn't expect to find anyone out here in the wastelands, not after the last bombing run. But as he passed the remains of a shattered alien transport, something moved under a piece of metal. Ash stopped. He reached for the short blade strapped to his thigh, heart thudding. A survivor? Enemy or desperate scavenger? Then he heard a sound. It wasn't a threat, it was breathing. Weak, wet, and uneven. He stepped closer and carefully lifted the broken panel. What lay beneath was not what he expected. She was alien. Yes, but not one of the terrifying armored types that had chased humans across the fields months ago. She was small, thin, maybe no older than a teenager in human years. Her eyes were too big for her face, shining like wet jewels. Her skin was a pale lavender, almost translucent in places. She was badly wounded. Her clothes were shredded, and where she had no legs. From the waist down, there was nothing but dried blood, ruined flesh, and makeshift bindings. Ash stared at her, frozen. The girl blinked up at him, her lips trembling. She tried to speak, but her voice came out broken and dry. It wasn't her language, it was a simple sound. A plea. Ash looked around. No one else was nearby. Just the wind and the ruins. He should walk away. He knew that. She was the enemy, maybe a scout, maybe bait, maybe worse. But something in her eyes stopped him. He crouched down slowly and said, in a low voice, "Don't move, you're hurt." Of course she didn't understand. But maybe his tone was enough. She didn't flinch when he reached into his pack and pulled out a water pouch. Her fingers were shaking when she took it. She drank too fast, then coughed, then tried to speak again, but nothing came out but a soft whimper. Her blood had already dried, but the wounds looked fresh. Ash could see she wasn't going to survive out here on her own. Still, she looked at him with something like hope. Ash sighed and shook his head. Why am I doing this? He checked the surroundings again, then lifted her carefully into his arms. She was light, too light, bones and skin. She cried out as he moved her, and her body shook with pain. But she didn't fight him. Ash carried her to the hollow where he'd been sleeping the past few nights, a space under a collapsed bridge, shielded from wind and drones. He laid her down on the cleaner part of a folded tarp, then started working on her wounds. He didn't have much, just some bandages, a pain patch, and old water, but he did what he could. The girl watched him, never looking away, like she was memorizing his face. When he was done, she reached for his hand. Her fingers were colder than they should have been. He didn't pull away. For a long time, neither of them said anything. She probably couldn't, and Ash hadn't spoken to anyone in days. Finally, he broke the silence. "You got a name?" he asked softly. She opened her mouth again, struggling. Her throat worked. Then, faintly, she whispered something. It wasn't a human word, but she said it again and pointed at herself. "Karan," Ash repeated carefully. She blinked slowly and gave a weak nod. Ash sat back and exhaled. "All right, Karan. I don't know what you are, or how you ended up here, but I guess we're stuck with each other now." Above them, the sky rumbled with distant thunder, or maybe a ship. The war wasn't over, not really. And both sides still wanted blood, but under that ruined bridge, a legless alien girl and a friendless human had started something neither of them understood yet, something neither side expected, something that might just change everything. Ash barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he'd hear Karan shift, whimper, or stop breathing for a second too long. The alien girl had lost too much blood. She needed more help than he could give. When morning came, gray and cold, Ash heated some water. With his small solar stove, he had a few cubes of protein mix left. He dropped one into the tin and watched it swell. He wasn't sure if Karan could eat human food, but if she didn't eat soon, she would die before sunset. Karan opened her eyes slowly when he nudged her shoulder. Her skin looked paler than before, like moonlight. She was barely holding on. He helped her sit up. She winced and gasped in pain, but didn't scream. When he brought the cup to her lips, she sniffed the steam. Then she took a slow sip, like she was afraid it might hurt her. But after the first swallow, she drank greedily. Ash raised an eyebrow. Guess alien taste buds aren't so different after all. She finished the cup and looked at him with tired eyes, then said something softly in her language. He didn't understand, but she gave a weak smile. That small smile stuck with him more than any word. Ash stood and grabbed his scanner from his pack. He needed to know where the nearest outpost or crash site was, maybe some leftover tech, something useful. But the screen was dead. Battery fried. Again, he cursed under his breath and kicked a broken rock dot. Then Karan made a sound. She was pointing at the edge of the rubble. Ash turned fast, hand on his blade. His heart pounded. Nothing. But then he heard it too. A drone. Old, buzzing faintly. Ash knelt, grabbed his broken comlink, and whispered, "Stay here. Don't move." Karan's eyes widened with fear, but she nodded. Ash crawled low, moving through the rocks and burnt steel until he spotted it, a scout drone, stuck in a tangle of wires near a collapsed wall. It was one of theirs human tech, probably damaged in the last airstrike. He moved in slowly. The drone's blinking light showed it was still active, but not transmitting. That was good. It meant no one else knew he was here. Ash reached in carefully and cut the power. The buzzing died. He pried open the panel and pulled out the energy cell. It was half-charged enough to run his scanner and maybe power up the heating unit. He returned to the hideout, holding the battery like a prize. Karan was still lying there, eyes closed. For a second, he feared the worst. But she stirred when he knelt beside her. "I've got something," he whispered. "Might just keep us alive another day." He plugged the cell into his scanner and flipped it on. The screen glowed faintly. Ash tapped through the map settings. A few locations lit up, mostly ruins, but one mark blinked red. A supply bunker, human code. It was 12 clicks north. Through rough terrain and old battlegrounds, Ash stared at the vital screen. He couldn't carry her that far, not in one day, not alone. He looked at her again. She was watching him now silently. Her breathing was shallow. Her hands trembled. "I can't leave you here," he muttered. "But I can't carry you that far either." Karan tried to speak, but no words came. She pointed at herself, then the tarp, then made a rolling gesture with her hands. Ash blinked. "Wait, wheels?" She nodded slowly. Ash looked around. His mind raced. He had parts from the drone. Metal struts, wheel components, shock systems. His pack held cord and straps. His tarp could be used as a base. He could build something. He didn't know if it would work, but doing nothing was worse. He got to work fast. His hands remembered the old mechanic life. Before the war. Before the blood. He stripped the drone, cut panels, shaped makeshift wheels, and used scrap rods for axles. He built a low-frame cart, sturdy enough to drag. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't comfortable. But it would move. By dusk, it was ready. Ash lifted Karan gently into it. She groaned once but didn't resist. He tied her in with strips of cloth. To keep her steady, when he looked down at her, her eyes were wide with something he hadn't seen before. Trust that. He looked away quickly. "Don't get used to it," he said gruffly. "We're not out of this yet." They started north as the sky darkened, the stars blinking awake one by one. Ash pulled the cart slowly, step by step, over broken roads and dead grass. His muscles burned and his back screamed, but he kept going. He didn't know why. Maybe it was because Karan hadn't begged. Maybe it was because she smiled when she should have cried. Or maybe, deep down, because carrying her made him feel less empty. Neither of them spoke for hours, but in that silence, something was growing, something quiet and strange, between a human with no friends and an alien girl with no legs. And far ahead, in the shadows of the dead zone, something else waited, something that had noticed them, something not so silent. The road ahead was cracked and cruel. Ash pulled the cart with both hands gripping the rope, feeling every jolt and bump through his arms. His back ached. His legs were sore. He didn't speak, not even when the wind started to howl. Karan lay quiet behind him, wrapped in a blanket he'd torn from his old jacket. Her eyes were half closed, but she stayed awake. She watched the skies. She kept scanning the ground behind them, as if she sensed something was coming. Ash noticed. "You hear something?" he asked over his shoulder. Karan didn't speak, but she made a soft warning sound and pointed behind them. Ash paused. He turned slowly. The road they had come from was empty. Only dust and old tire marks. But now that he stood still, he heard it too. A soft, steady thump. Like footsteps. Too heavy to be human. He squatted low and scanned the horizon. There, movement. A shape, no, three shapes moving through the ruins. Slow, deliberate, not drones. Too tall. Ash cursed under his breath. Hunters, not human. Not machines. These things were bred to track, capture, or kill. Usually silent. But this group wasn't hiding anymore. He turned back and tightened the ropes on the cart. "We're not stopping now," he said, pulling faster. Karan grabbed his arm weakly and made a shaking motion, then drew her finger across her throat. "No choice," Ash answered. "If we stay here, we're meat." The road climbed uphill, and Ash had to push with everything he had. Karan tried to help by gripping the edge of the cart, but she was too weak. Ash's boots slipped on loose gravel, and twice he nearly fell. Behind them, the sound grew louder. The hunters were closing. And they crested the hill and reached an old highway overpass. Part of it had collapsed, but a narrow path still cut across the top. Just wide enough for one person and a small cart. Ash pulled Karan up the ramp, breathing hard. Once on top, he looked down and saw the hunters clearly for the first time. Three tall creatures, half flesh, half metal. They moved like wolves, but stood upright. Their eyes glowed faint blue in the fading daylight. One sniffed the air and let out a sharp clicking sound. They had the scent. Ash looked at Karan. She was trembling now, lips parted in fear. "We're almost there," he said, more to himself than her. "Just gotta get off this bridge." But halfway across, the cart wheel struck a chunk of broken metal. It tipped sideways. Karan screamed. As she slid halfway out, Ash dropped the rope and lunged, catching her just before she hit the edge. The cart fell on its side. Broken. Ash gritted his teeth and pulled her back up with everything he had. Her body was light, but his muscles burned like fire. He set her down on the concrete and looked behind them. Again, the hunters had reached the base of the hill. Ash stood up straight. "I'll buy us time." Karan grabbed his sleeve with surprising strength. She shook her head, tears in her eyes. She whispered something desperate and shook harder. "I'm not leaving you," he said. "But if they catch us both, it's over." He scanned the wreckage on the overpass. A rusted motorcycle lay nearby, its frame crushed but its sidecar still intact. He raced to it, yanked the sidecar free, and dragged it over. It was lighter than the cart, but less stable. No wheels, just a flat base with a curved shell. Good enough. He lifted Karan into it, tied her in again, and wrapped a spare tarp over her body to hide her shape. Behind them, the thudding footsteps were faster. Now. Ash grabbed the rope and ran. Not walked. Not jogged. Ran. The makeshift sled bounced and scraped, but it stayed together. He didn't look back. He knew what he would see. The hunters leaping up the ramp, sniffing the blood. Tracking him, he followed the scanner signal. North. Always north. Minutes passed like hours. The pain in his lungs grew sharp. He could feel a burning stitch in his side. But he didn't stop. Until finally, in the distance, he saw it, part of a hatch buried under dirt and vines. The bunker. He ran harder, nearly collapsing as he reached it. He dropped the rope and rushed to the control pad. Covered in dust, dead. No. No, he whispered. Then Karan coughed behind him. He turned. Her hand was stretched out. She held a small silver chip. Glowing faintly, Ash ran back and took it. He pushed it into the console. The hatch made a loud click. It opened. Ash grabbed Karan and half carried, half dragged her inside. He hit the panel again. The door sealed shut. Silence. Only the sound of their heavy breathing. Then Karan looked at him. Her voice was faint but clear. Safe. Ash nodded. For now. But deep inside the bunker, something stirred. The power was still on, and they were not alone. Asterisk. The door sealed behind them with a heavy hiss, cutting off the outside world. Ash stood still for a moment, waiting, listening. No footsteps, no pounding. Just the slow hum of old power running through deep wires beneath their feet. Karan lay slumped in the sled, eyes half closed. She looked pale, barely breathing. Ash gently picked her up and stepped into the dimly lit corridor of the bunker. The floor was metal, covered in dust. Faded warning signs were written in both human standard and several alien languages. The place wasn't just a human bunker, it had been shared. Maybe even built together during better days. Before war split everything apart. He carried her past the entrance chamber, through a tight hall, and into a small room that looked like a medical bay. The table was broken, one light flickering overhead, but there was power. That was enough. Ash found a working scanner panel on the wall and slammed his palm against the old biometric switch. It buzzed, then blinked green. An old medkit box popped open nearby. Inside were vials, patches, and foam injectors. He scanned Karan's body. The system blinked red with warnings: blood loss, tissue damage, severe trauma. But then something strange happened. The scanner paused. It flickered. Then, a second layer of data popped up, an alien script. Karan's body was already adapting. Her cells were repairing faster than human ones ever could. There was something inside her, something advanced, maybe engineered. Or maybe her species had natural healing traits. Ash loaded a stabilizer foam and injected it gently into the veins of her upper arm. She jerked a little, then gasped. Her eyes fluttered open. She stared at the ceiling, then turned her head toward him. Her lips moved. Ash leaned close. She whispered, "Thank you." It was in broken English, but it was clear. Ash blinked. "You speak my language?" Karan coughed weakly, then nodded. "Little. Learned when we watched." "When you watched humans?" She gave another weak nod. "Before war. We studied all of you." Ash looked away. "Figures." Karan reached for his hand. Her fingers were warmer now. "Less shaky. You help," she said slowly. "But why?" Ash didn't answer for a long time. Finally, he sat down beside her and spoke quietly. "Because everyone else left me. Same way your people left you." Karan closed her eyes. A single tear slid down the side of her cheek. She understood that pain. He stayed near her until she fell asleep. Ash explored the bunker slowly. Room by room, he cleared dust, checked systems, and powered what he could. The water system still worked. A basic food dispenser hummed to life with a few recycled ration packs left. Not much, but enough for a few days. He found a small room with maps and communication equipment. The radio was fried, but a message log blinked at him. When he played it, a voice crackled out. To any survivors, this site is marked unsafe. Retreat advised. Unknown biosignature detected. Repeat, do not engage. Ash sat still. Unknown biosignature? He tapped the scanner again. It pulled up an old map of the bunker. One section blinked orange restricted zone. Lower level. He looked over his shoulder toward where Karan rested. He thought about ignoring it. Staying in the med bay. Eating rations, healing, but something deep in his chest itched. A warning. Or maybe just curiosity. He grabbed the light and followed the hall to a locked door with the warning symbol glowing above it. Alien script mixed with human lettering. Quarantine. Bio unit. Below. Power access required. Ash plugged in the battery from the drone again and forced the panel open. The door creaked slowly, revealing a spiral stairway going down into darkness. Descended carefully, step by step. The lower level was colder. The air smelled like metal and decay, but the lights worked. Pale green, flickering dot. Then he saw a dot at the center of the chamber was a tank. A cryopod, but it was empty. The glass was broken. Ash's mouth went dry. He turned around slowly, claw marks. Deep ones. Across the walls. And footsteps. Not his. Not 'cause single quotes RIN single quotes S. Someone, or something, had left this place not long ago. Then he heard the whisper. A soft voice. Not threatening, not human. You brought her here. Ash froze. He raised his light and turned toward the far wall. A figure stood there, just beyond the shadows. Tall, thin, not metal. Not beast. Something else. Its voice came again. She is not just a girl. She is a key. Ash's heart pounded. Who are you? The figure stepped forward slightly, just enough for the light to catch a glimpse of its face. It looked a little like Karan, but older, wounded, and something in its eyes was broken, like it had seen too much. I am what's left, it said quietly. And now, so is she. Ash didn't understand, but he would soon. Ash didn't move. He kept the light steady on the figure in front of him, but the green glow made everything feel unreal. The thing standing there looked like Karan, same pale skin, same large eyes, but older. Its face had deep scars, and its body seemed incomplete, like it had been part of a machine once and ripped free. Ash finally spoke. Who are you? The figure tilted its head slowly. I was called Varix, long ago. Before this place fell. Before they used us. Used. You? Ash took one step closer, careful not to show fear. Used you for what? Varix pointed to the broken cryopod behind him. We were the project. A secret one. Human and alien minds together. Not soldiers. Not weapons. But something new. Something meant to end the war before it began. Ash's eyes narrowed. You mean peace? Varix gave a slow, bitter smile. Peace was the lie they told us. We were created to become bridges between species. To carry languages, emotions, memories across minds. But when the war started, they changed the plan. They wanted control. They made us into keys. Keys to what? Varix's smile faded. To command, to override ships, bases, even soldiers. Anything that followed code, anything part of the network. But they didn't understand what they built. Ash suddenly felt cold. You're saying Karan? She was the final piece, Varix whispered. The most stable, the youngest. The purest link between our kind and yours. But they didn't protect her. When the system failed, She was left behind, like me. Broken. Forgotten. Ash shook his head. She's just a girl. Varric stepped closer. She was, but now she is more. She's waking up. You've already seen it, her healing, her speech. Her connection to the systems here. She can feel things you can't. And she's not safe. Ash pulled out his blade slowly. She hasn't hurt anyone. Yet. Varric's voice was calm. But others will come for her. Your people, mine. She threatens what they fear most: change. Unity. She was made to merge what the war tried to keep apart. Ash stared at the scarred figure for a long moment, his mind racing. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Varric didn't blink. Because you didn't leave her behind. You carried her. You chose mercy. That makes you part of her now. Ash took a step back. No, I'm just trying to keep her alive. Exactly, Varric said. And you're the only one who can. A sudden alarm echoed faintly through the upper levels. Ash turned toward the stairwell. Red lights began to flash. Intruder signal. Varric's voice lowered. They're here. I felt them land. Ash ran for the stairs. Stay down here. He raced back up the spiral path, heart thudding. The moment he burst into the hallway, he saw Karan sitting upright, her hands on the wall. The lights around her were pulsing with her heartbeat. Karan! He called. She turned her head slowly. Her eyes glowed faintly now. Ash knelt beside her. You okay? She looked confused. I felt them, falling, like fire, soldiers, many, Ash swore. They tracked us. He grabbed his pack and pulled out the last 2 charged cells, then slung a rifle over his shoulder. He didn't have many rounds left, maybe 10. Listen, he said. We're going to move deeper. There's another way out. But you have to. Stay awake. Karan's voice shook. You should leave me. He stared at her. That's not happening. Her fingers tightened around his arm. I don't want you to die. Ash gave a small smile. Then stay alive. That's how we both win. He lifted her from the sled and carried her through the next corridor. The base shook faintly now. Drops of dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, a ship had landed. As they moved, Karan touched the walls with her fingers, and the lights changed, guiding them. You're linked to this place, aren't you? Ash whispered. She gave a weak nod. I feel its memory. Its pain. They reached the storage wing. Old mechs stood in long rows, rusted but tall. Ash moved quickly, setting Karan behind a crate and covering her with a heat blanket. Stay. Hidden, no sound. If I don't come back. Karan's voice trembled. I will still wait for you. Ash turned away quickly, his chest tight. Then he moved to the entrance chamber. The blast door cracked open with a shriek of metal. 5 figures stepped. Inside. Not aliens. Humans. Elite strike gear. Heavy rifles. Military marks. And their leaders stepped forward with a voice like cold steel. Hand over the alien, and we won't end you. Ash raised his weapon. Then you don't know me. Ash stood between the intruders and the shadows of the bunker, his rifle aimed, hands steady. The 5 human soldiers didn't flinch. Their armor was polished, their helmets sealed, their weapons locked on him with cold precision. The leader stepped closer. His voice came through a speaker in his chestplate. You're harboring a Class 7 alien asset. Stand down, now. Ash didn't move. She's not a threat. She's not a girl, the soldier said sharply. She's a system key. If she interfaces with the wrong tech, she could collapse an entire city grid or worse. Ash's jaw clenched. She's half dead. She can't even walk. The soldier tilted his helmet. And yet, she activated this bunker's defenses. Opened restricted doors. She's already waking up. Ash said nothing. The second soldier moved to the side, flanking. Ash stepped slightly to block the path. The leader gave one last warning. Step aside. We will take her either way. Ash exhaled. You can try. He fired first. The shot struck the shoulder of the front soldier. The rest raised their weapons instantly, filling the corridor with light and sound. Ash rolled behind a support beam, narrowly missing a shot that scorched the floor near his leg. His rifle jammed on the second shot. Of course, he yanked the backup pistol from his belt and fired again, forcing two soldiers to take cover behind a console. Sparks flew. Dust rose. Ash was fast, but they were trained. Then something changed. The lights in the bunker dimmed. A soft vibration ran through the floor. The walls began to pulse with a blue glow alive. Ash looked toward the ceiling. He whispered, "Karan?" Somewhere. In the dark, her mind had touched the system again. The hallway doors slammed shut behind the soldiers. One of them cursed and started slamming the control panel. Then the security turrets dropped from the ceiling with a mechanical click. Fall. Back. The leader shouted. Too late. One turret fired a burst of stun rounds, hitting the soldier in the back. He fell, convulsing. The others scattered. One reached for an EMP charge. Ash tackled him before he could throw it, slamming his pistol against the soldier's helmet with all his strength. The armor cracked. The man dropped. Ash was bleeding. Now his shoulder burned, and his leg ached from shrapnel. He turned to fire again, but stopped. The remaining soldiers had backed away. The corridor was lit now with blue veins running along the walls like electricity. Then Karan's voice came over the speakers, soft, echoing, "You came to take me." The soldiers froze. Her voice was no longer weak. It was steady, even, strange. "I am not yours," she said. "I am not theirs." The lights flared. Ash ran back toward the med bay, pushing past smoke and sparks. He reached her just as her eyes opened wide, glowing fully now. She was still lying down, but her hands were lifted slightly, like she was holding invisible strings. "Karan, stop," Ash said. "Don't kill them." Her hands trembled. "They would kill you." Ash knelt beside her. "I know. But if you become what they fear, you prove them right." Her eyes locked on his. He saw pain there. And confusion. "I don't want to hurt," she whispered. "I know," Ash said softly. "That's why you don't have to." Karan's hands dropped. The lights dimmed. Far off, the corridor doors unlocked with a hiss. Ash limped back and found the soldiers still alive, dazed. He stepped over the fallen gear and stared at their leader. "She let you live," Ash said. "Remember that." The man didn't reply. Ash turned away. He dragged Karan's sled into a deeper part of the bunker, somewhere the scanners wouldn't reach. A hidden tunnel, old escape route. It hadn't been used in years. They set up there, quiet again, like the first night under the bridge. Karan rested against the wall, breathing slowly. "You stopped," Ash said. "You could have fried their minds." She nodded. "I saw your face. I didn't want to lose it." He looked at her. "Why me?" Karan blinked. "Because when I was broken, you didn't throw me away." Ash sat beside her. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he asked, "You said you were a key. What does that make me?" She reached over and took his hand, "The one who unlocked me." Above them, the soldiers reported their failure. And far across the stars, someone else was listening. Someone who wasn't ready to give up the key so easily. The bunker had gone quiet again. Power hummed low through the walls, but the alarms had stopped. The soldiers were gone. They didn't speak a word when they left, maybe too shaken, or maybe waiting for new orders. Ash and Karan stayed underground. He had patched her up the best he could. Her skin had changed, slightly fainter, like moonlight. But she was healing faster now. The wounds that once looked fatal were fading. Still, she had no legs. And yet she didn't complain. Each day, she grew stronger, not just in body, but in mind. She could now connect to the old systems without touching them. Ash watched her unlock sealed doors just by thinking. She spoke more clearly, learned more words. laughed quietly at old human jokes he barely remembered. They shared meals, stories, silence. And then one night, while the cold wind howled above, Korean asked, "What will you do after this?" Ash looked at her. "I never had a plan. I just kept moving. You can't keep running forever." "I wasn't running before," he said. "Just alone." She reached out and took his hand. "You aren't alone now." Ash didn't say anything. He didn't need to, but deep underground, something else moved. The scanner blinked. Unidentified vessel, approaching fast. Not human. Ash stood up, checked the readout. The signature was alien high-level tech, stronger than anything he'd seen before. It wasn't here to search. It was here to claim. "They're coming," he said, turning to Karen. She nodded slowly. "I feel them. Your people?" "No," she said. "Worse." Outside, the night cracked open with thunder. The vessel didn't land, it hovered, massive, a shadow against the sky. Then beams of light cut through the ruins, scanning. Ash grabbed his rifle. Even though he knew it wouldn't help, Karan turned her face toward the light, her eyes shining. "They want to bind me," she said softly. "Use me, the same way they used Varix. They think I'm still weak." Ash moved beside her. "But you're not." She closed her eyes and whispered, "Will you stay with me?" "Always," he said without hesitation. She touched his chest. "Then I need to show you." In that moment, everything changed. Ash felt a warmth spread through his body, gentle, but deep, a connection. Thoughts not his own, memories, feelings, light. He saw her past what she truly was. Not just a girl, not a weapon, but a living bridge. Built to unite minds. Built to feel everything. She had been designed to sync with others. But not for war, for peace. But they had twisted her. And now the ones above wanted to finish what they started. Ash stumbled back as the vision faded. Karen's voice was soft. "They want a tool, but I am not a tool." The ceiling shook. A deep hum echoed through the walls. "They're going to breach," Ash said. Karen took a breath. "Then we show them we're not afraid." He looked at her. "What do you need?" She whispered, "Trust me, and hold on." Ash wrapped his arms around her fragile body. Then everything exploded in light. A pulse burst from the center of the bunker, silent, but powerful. It swept through the earth, the metal, the ship above. The hovering vessel cracked down the middle, its systems crashing. Ash felt himself floating, not in space, but in her mind. He heard voices, thousands of them, alien, human, machine. He saw futures, branches of time. Some dark, some full of light. And then it all returned. The light faded, the ground stopped shaking. He opened his eyes. The ship was gone. No crash, no fire, just vanished. Ash looked around. The bunker was still whole. Karan lay in his arms, breathing calmly. "What did you do?" He whispered. "I didn't destroy them," she said. "I showed them everything, who I am, who you are, what we could become together." Ash helped her sit up. Her body was glowing faintly still, but the fear in her eyes was gone. "You're not just a key," he said. "You're the door." She smiled gently. "And you opened it." They left the bunker the next day. Ash built a new sled, stronger this time. And together, they crossed the ruins of war. Wherever they went, systems responded. Lights turned on. Machines woke up. People, both human and alien, began to follow, not in fear, but in hope. The girl with no legs, the man with no friends. Together, they started something no one expected, a new beginning.